Hi, it's me, Joanna. In today's video, we are going to learn how to use Cornell note-taking. Cornell note-taking 是由康奈尔大学发明的一个笔记法，那通常是帮助就是大学生在课堂中记笔记，所以它特别适用于我们去听一个比较长的演讲的时候。那你在做这个练习的时候，你要去想象，就是你今天做的这个笔记是为了重现你接下来听的这个内容。好，你可以想象说，你有一个朋友要跟你一起去听，但是他临时有事没办法来，所以你要做笔记，到时候你才可以讲给大家听，这种感觉。因为有些人在做这个 Cornell note-taking 的时候，他会习惯性就是说，我有听到这个字，我就把它写下来，可是最后面整个 note 是 doesn't make sense 的。OK， 好，所以记得呢，我们在做这个 note-taking， 你可以去想象你接下来要去重现这个课程内容，就像我们平时在学校用中文去听的时候，我们也一样，就是我们做笔记的时候，它一定有一个前后文，一定有一个主题性。OK， 好，那我们今天就先拿这个12分钟的这个TED Talk How to Make Learning as Addictive as Social Media 这个来听听看。那有些同学呢，可能一开始在做的时候觉得有点困难，没有关系，你可以先把整个 video 先听过一遍，我们再做第二次，再做 note taking 也行哦。好，那我们来试试看怎么做。
From Guatemala. This is a public service announcement. That is where Guatemala is. Also, that is not where they keep the prisoners. That is called Guantanamo. Not the same place. So Guatemala is right below Mexico. And for the Americans in the audience, and let this sink in because it really applies in most ways. For the Americans in the audience, you can think of it as Mexico's Mexico. Just like the US doesn't want illegal immigration from Mexico, Mexico doesn't want illegal immigration from Guatemala. It's a smaller country. It's a poorer country. And, well, what can I tell you? It has much better Mexican food.
OK， 所以到这边他都还在讲笑话，所以我个人是觉得没什么重点，我就不会特别去记笔记。那当然说我们笔记内容呢，要选择什么样的内容都是entirely depending on you.
Guatemala is a very poor country. And a lot of people talk about education as something that brings equality to different social classes. But I always saw it as the opposite, as something that brings inequality. Because what happens in practice is that people who have a lot of money can buy themselves a really good education and therefore continue having a lot of money, whereas people who don't have very much money barely learn how to read and write and therefore never make a lot of money, and this is especially true in poor countries. Now, I was fortunate that I received a rich person.
OK， 所以刚刚这边呢，我就可以直接写他说 He thinks education brings inequality because it makes wealthy people continue to be wealthy. Okay. Hi.
Want to learn Python but don't.
Okay.
Education, even though I didn't grow up rich. And it's because I'm an only child. And my mother, who was a single mother, spent all of her resources on my education. And this allowed me to come to college to the US and eventually get a PhD in computer science. Now, because of all of this, about 10 years ago, I decided that I wanted to do something that would give equal access to education to everyone. Oh, by the way, this is what I want to talk to you about today, giving equal access to education to everyone. At the time, I was a professor of computer science at Carnegie Mellon University, and I decided to work on this with my PhD student, Severin. The way my brain works, all of education is just too general of a problem. So I decided, let's start by teaching one thing. And then I started thinking, okay, well, what should we teach first? Should we teach math? I mean, we both loved math. Me and my co-founder, we both love math. And, we didn't decide to do math. Then we started thinking, well, maybe we should teach computer science. But eventually, and this is maybe surprising to people in North America, eventually we decided that the best subject to start with was teaching foreign languages. And let me tell you why. There's a number of reasons. One of them is that there's a huge audience for it. There's about 2 billion people in the world learning a foreign language, both in school and outside of schools. Most of these people, by the way, are learning English. About 80% of them are learning English. In this weird map right here, all the countries in green are countries in which people are predominantly learning English. And the reason for that is because English can truly transform your life. In most countries in the world, knowledge of English can significantly increase your income potential. So this is another reason why we decided to start with foreign languages, and it's because you can directly make more money if you learn another language, in particular English. And see, this is pretty different than many other subjects. For example, take math. In the case of math, just knowledge of math does not increase your income potential, because usually you have to learn math to then learn physics, to then become a civil engineer. Like, that's how you make more money. Whereas with languages, if you are a waiter and you learn English, now you can be a waiter at a hotel and make more money. So we decided, well, let's get started by teaching languages. Now, we also convinced ourselves that the only way to really reach a lot of people was by using a mobile phone, or a smartphone in particular. See, building schools all over the world is simply too expensive. On the other hand, most of the world's population already has access to a smartphone, and the trend is that that fraction is only going to increase. So we decided at the time that we would make a way to learn foreign languages on a mobile phone that was accessible to everyone. And then we called it Duolingo. Thank you. Now, in order to truly be accessible to everyone, rich and poor, Duolingo uses a freemium model to support itself. What that means is that you can learn as much as you want without ever having to pay. But if you don't pay, you may have to see an ad at the end of a lesson. Now, if you don't like ads, you can also pay to subscribe to turn off the ads. And it turns out that the vast majority of the revenue for Duolingo comes from people who pay to subscribe to turn off the ads. Now, who are these people who pay to subscribe to turn off the ads? Well, they're usually people, they're well-off people in rich countries like the US and Canada. Who are the people who don't pay to subscribe? They usually come from poorer countries like Brazil or Vietnam or Guatemala. So what I like about this model is that it is a small form of wealth redistribution, because we're basically getting the rich people to pay for the education of everyone. So I like that. Yes. So great. So with smartphones, we can reach a lot of people, and we can even get the rich people to pay for the whole thing. This is great. However, if you're trying to deliver education with a smartphone, you run into a humongous problem. And it is that smartphones come equipped with some of the most addictive drugs that humanity has ever engineered. TikTok, Instagram, mobile games. See, delivering education over a smartphone is like hoping that people will eat their broccoli, but right next to it, you put the most delicious dessert ever made. If you really want to deliver education to everyone, not only do you have to make it accessible, but also you have to make it so that people want to actually learn. And with Duolingo, we've been able to do this. And at the highest level, the way we've done this is by making the broccoli taste like dessert. I'll say it another way. What we've done is that we've used the same psychological techniques that apps like Instagram, TikTok, or mobile games use to keep people engaged. But in this case, we use them to keep people engaged, but with education. Let me give you some examples of these techniques. One of the most powerful ones is the notion of a streak. What a streak is it's just a counter that measures the number of days that you've used the product consecutively. You just take that number, you put it very prominently in your product, and then people come back every day. And the reason people come back every day is because, well, if they don't come back, that number resets to 0, and people don't want to lose their streak. It works. Now, on the one side, streaks have been criticized for example, getting teens addicted to Snapchat. But in the case of an educational app, streaks get people to come back to study every day. Now, to give you an idea of the
Okay, so here's an example how you can listen to it and take note at the same time. 好，那这样就完成我们的 note。那接下来你可以用这个 note 来复习一下，之后就可以练习口说。Alright, so today I want to talk about a TED Talk video that I watched earlier today. The author is from Guatemala, as I remember, and he believes education brings inequality because it makes wealthy people continue to be wealthy or even wealthier. He is a PhD in computer science, and he wanted to do something to give equal education to everybody. So he wants to provide equal access to education. He first started working with his PhD student, and the first thing they have to think about is to start with teaching one thing. But they were talking about what to start first. eventually they decided to start with foreign languages. The reasons being that it has huge audience. Millions of people around the world are learning a foreign language, and 80% of them are learning English. And he also believes that English can transform people's life by increasing their income. And he believes that you can earn a lot of money by knowing a language. So after they decided doing this, the next thing is how. They believe that the only way to reach more people is through mobile phones, since everybody has a phone now. So they started the company Duolingo. So in this company, this applications, you can learn as much as you want without paying a single penny, but there will be advertisements. And he also found that most profits are from subscription, that were people who subscribe to get rid of the advertisements, especially in developed countries. So actually he believes that rich people are now paying for the whole thing. It's the application is for everybody, but a lot of people in developed countries are paying so that this application can continue because they are generating profit. So by doing this, he also found out some problems. Okay, because mobile phones are very addictive. It has something like social media or games people want to play. So how can people focus on learning a language? So he needs to make people actually want to learn. So he used some psychological techniques like social media. For example, people will come back every day because there is a calendar to keep tracks. It makes people addictive.